Hey guys, today we are talking about a particular type of poison that kills teams and tribes. In fact, it is so caustic. It kills teams and tribes faster than Roundup kills weeds. And you're going to hear it today, right now, on Hank Ruff TV. Hey guys, welcome back. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this episode, hopefully, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think. And we're going to talk about some things. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment a little bit later. But most importantly, share it with others. I think they'll get a lot of benefit. Okay, let's get started. It's called manipulation and control. And it's actually spoken of throughout scriptures. It's talked about in the news. It's talked about in current events. It's happening all the time. People are manipulating, controlling. It's sad because that is one of the worst poisons you can have in a business. Poison number 8, manipulation and control, or harsh and manipulative communication. Do you have it in yours? Are you it? That's the scary part. If you look in the mirror and that person's you, that's why we're here. Okay, so let's talk about Andrew Huberman. What he talks about here in this video, I'm going to show you about the fact that roughly 10% of the population is high conflict aggressive. They don't just find drama, they manufacture it. This is the one right here with him. Let's take a look at this.
In this 10% of people, they are high conflict people. But within, they like conflict. They feed off it. They like drama. They like conflict. They like creating it. But within that category, it's pretty evenly divided, he claims, between women and men. And then there's a further division where about half of them play passive and victim, but are highly manipulative. They use other people to try and basically harm.
Yeah.
And then the other 5% are very aggressive and abrasive.
That's true. That's the problem. I mean, there is a larger percentage than most of us realize that's out there. And these are the people who typically lead in the direction of companies. It's quite sad. I'll share a story with you. Wasn't actually going to share it, but it just popped in my head, so I think I'll share it. I was in an event, a national event with a major alarm company, and one of its key partnerships was Alarm.com. Great organization, by the way. Steve Trundle, shout out to him. He's built a great company. At this event, I had worked with a former company, I won't say who it is, and had a great career there. And I moved on to a brand new company, working at this current company. They had hired, since I had left, they had hired a new COO, maybe. And the gentleman, I'll just say it this way, his name was Tom. Tom was a bit drunk at this event. And Tom had already known that my 2-year non-solicitation non-compete had passed. And there was a gentleman who was working there, and I had reached out to him, mentioning that if there were certain companies that wouldn't be a fit for them, send them over to us. We talked to him. He comes up to me and he begins to tell me how what I was doing was wrong. I said, oh, hold on. Before you start to get too close to me, I have a 2-year non-solicited. It's over. He didn't hear anything I said. He was so drunk, he got about this far from my face. Now, as most of you know, I'm a big dude, 6'2", 270 pounds, maybe 255, 270. And he was already drunk and I was completely sober. And I just said, look, you better pack up. And his CEO of the company quickly got over there and pushed him out of the way and said, I apologize. The reality is that this was a guy who was creating conflict. He was stirring up trouble. Come to find out later, he got let go from there, went to another company, got let go again. He was not a good man of character. Let's just say that. And unfortunately, so many companies are interwoven with these types of people. And for the life of me, I never understand. How does the individual who toots his horn and spreads his poison get so quickly hired, and then the individual with honor, character, and integrity is forgotten about? It reminds me of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Our Jaguars are 12-4 heading into the playoffs, and yet everyone makes fun of us for the last 30 years that we're just a small town player. We probably shouldn't even been here. Maybe we're a mid-college size, quality. And yet here we are, 12-4, one of the best records in the history. And hats off to Liam Cohen for doing such a great job. Why? Because I believe in the topsy-turvy world, in the world that we live in here of integrity, it's most forgotten about when the person walks with integrity that they're skipped upon to go to someone else who toots their own horn. I don't understand it. Anyway, let's move on. Transition. But there is a difference between being a high conflict person and being a manipulative one. One is a loud poison, the other is a silent one, and that's the truth. So let's talk here about a little quick story I'll share with you that had happened to me in the military. I was in U.S. Navy, stationed on USS Hunley. If you have watched our other program, TMF Warrior, you'll see in the backdrop, in the background, you'll see a picture of the USS Hunley where I served. Had this young lieutenant, maybe not that young, probably mid-late 30s at the time. Um, all I remember is he smelled so bad of vitamins, and he swore he was so healthy. But the more vitamins he took, the yellower skin got. It was pretty bad. Jaundice, maybe, I don't know. And he, by his very rank of his emblem on his shirt, was higher in rank than the Master Chief. But let's be honest with ourselves. On paper, the lieutenant had the authority. In reality, he had nothing. He had nothing. It reminded me of the episode in a movie, A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Prideful leaders who think no one else has their knowledge or insight. I've seen it in the military. I'm sure you've seen this. Check it out.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
That's it. That's the truth. Their attitude is that nobody has the corner market like they do. And that's such a lie. So let's move on to, the key point here. The lieutenant was trying to manipulate outcomes through force. The Master Chief was leading through character. I'll never forget that the Master Chief would always take a time to pull men together and ask them how they're doing. We won near the end of my service in the United States military from 1984 to 1990. It was coming near the fall. I decided I wasn't going to re-enlist and move on into the civilian world. We had a barbecue, a getaway party for a few of us, and it was there that the Master Chief decided he was going to play football with us. So he was probably in his mid-40s. We were probably in our early mid-20s, and yet he took the time to hang out with the young men. That's what makes teams great. And once again, shout out to Liam Cohen. If you guys aren't watching the Jacksonville Jaguars, just go to Jaguars and follow him on Instagram and watch after every game how he comes into the locker room. That's a man who not only has a great leadership skill and not only brings his men together, but he genuinely loves them. And he says it, and that's powerful. Let me share with you one of my favorite speakers, Jocko Willink. You may know the Special Forces, served in the military. Shout out to the U.S. Navy. Here's where he talks on leadership versus manipulation. Watch this.
If I'm manipulating you, I'm trying to get you to do something. If I'm leading you, I'm trying to get you to do something. And many of the tools are very similar. So what's the difference between me leading you and me manipulating you? It's very easy for me to answer that question. If I'm manipulating you, I'm trying to get you to do something that's going to benefit me. If I'm leading, I'm trying to get you to do something that's going to benefit you, it's going to benefit the team, and it's going to benefit the mission. And by the way, if I'm a manipulator, I can get away with that for a little while, but eventually you're going to look at me for what I am. You're going to see that the maneuvers I'm making, the tools I'm using, I'm utilizing those tools for my own benefit. And as soon as you see that, you won't fully support me. The same goes for when I'm trying to make you do something good for yourself and for the team. You're going to see that too. And you're going to say, he actually cares about me. That's what he's doing this for. And when you know I care about you, you'll do anything.
That's it. You'll do anything. You'll follow me to the end. And that's what I'm seeing in great leadership. And that's what we see. A lot of people get their positions, and sadly, I see it in very liberalistic society. And there are those, whether you're conservative or liberal, doesn't matter to me. But the reality is that those people who are there just for the title, just for the paycheck, you can smell the difference. I call it sniffing out the BS, the bullshit. You can sniff it from a mile away. This craft of manipulating people has become so advanced that there are actually books written about it. I'll never forget, probably back in 2007, I read a book by Maxwell Maltz in the classic Psycho-Cybernetics. And he discovers that the mind is a servo mechanism. He says it's like a part of machinery. And there's some truth to that. Yes, we're a spirit, eternal being, but we have a lot of mechanisms that work, right? Whether it's our bones and our nerves and our blood system. And he says we're a goal-seeking machine, I'm reading it here, that steers itself based on the self-image you feed it. Maltz teaches that your subconscious doesn't have a will, it just has a target. I would disagree with certainly some of that. But he used neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, to sneak into the blueprint and change your target. Now, do you believe that? It's hard to believe, right? How could somebody control me that easily? How could somebody turn me into a heat-seeking missile and guide and direct me where they want me to go? The world is a pretty scary place, and even in the work world, or in ministry, in churches, in schools, where there's college kids being NLP'd all day long by professors who are deceptive, manipulative, and know what they're doing. And shame on you if you're doing that to these children who aren't even 21 years old. It happens all the time. Let me show you another video, The Alpha Mind on Weaponizing Cognitive Dissonance. I saw this, and some of this stuff, it's pretty scary what they're doing.
90% of influence is weaponizing cognitive dissonance.
Wow.
And no one ever says it. Is I get you to agree to a little piece of identity, and I guarantee your behavior in the future. I can increase the chances by like 90% you're going to agree to this next little small piece. If I walked in here and I was like, dude, I got a question for you. Have you always been this open with other people? Or is this something you had to work on? The moment you answered that question, you have now made an agreement to act a certain way with me.
Open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you've also made an agreement that most people are not.
Interesting.
Or I don't even have to talk about your identity. I can get you to agree that most people live in these prisons of worrying about what people think. They live in these prisons of self-doubt.
I see.
And they're like, yeah. And the moment I get you to agree that that's those other people, I'm covertly getting you to agree to behave a certain way in this conversation.
And that's exactly what I saw with the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I always like to say this about a gun. A gun is simply a mechanism. It's an object. AI is a mechanism. It's an object. It's neither good or bad, really. It's what you decide to do with it. A gun could shoot and kill for food to keep you alive, and a gun can shoot and kill a human being. The reality is this: what is your use of it? And sadly, there are people out there who are using other human beings for their own will and their own desires, and most of them that do that aren't obviously good. I will say this: in my 20 years of sales training, I've seen these tools used for good and for evil. Sadly to say, I've used them and they work. NLPs work. The nodding protocol. If I move my head in a certain way while I'm talking to you, your brain is hardwired to mimic that movement. And it's somewhat scary that you can cause people to do things. You start nodding, because you're nodding, your internal success mechanism thinks, I must agree with this. Watch this one here, and this is where I believe this is on Diary of a CEO. This woman here talks about having this person nod and how quickly they catch him in the act of following them and then eventually controlling them.
Don't let anyone use this on you. Okay.
And nobody at home use this on anyone else.
Don't use this on anyone else. But so there's this thing that NLP people will do, or pickup artists will do, where they move their hand like this, and the other person will begin to nod, because typically when we do this with our hand, the other person starts to nod, which makes you think, I agree, I agree, I agree.
What are you doing for anyone that is
I'm moving my hand up and down in a nodding yes motion. And so what I've noticed very manipulative people will do is they'll be doing this, they speak like, don't you understand what I'm saying? Do you get this? And the other person will start to nod. And I've seen entire audiences will start nodding. And then you think to yourself, well, I'm nodding, so I must agree with this person. It's a secret way to get someone to secretly agree with you. So just be careful. Don't make sure no one uses that on you.
And that's the truth. That people do this all the time. You'll see it. You'll see it in how magicians can use. Now, not all of it is for evil intent. Obviously, magicians are entertainers, and they can use it and trick people into following and believing them, and the entire time missing that it's just a sleight of hand. But people use this all the time. And as I said earlier, and I challenge you, is this you? Is this the type of individual you are? As leaders that we teach here, we don't use these hacks to bypass judgment. We use communication to sharpen judgment. That's the fact. We don't want robots. We want human beings that we can have a conversation with. And we, the true leaders that are out there in business, need to help others, okay, become great leaders, not use people and manipulate them. If you're a leader and you're using harsh language of identity hacking to get results, you've already lost. It's the truth. Nobody wants to be treated harshly. Nobody wants to be manipulated, and nobody wants to be controlled. You're trying to over rev a machine that you don't actually control. What is the antidote? We talked about the poison. What's the antidote? Radical transparency and others first service. I love what Jocko says. They're so similar, but one looks out for the benefit of the other person, not just what they can get. One looks at the bigger picture. The challenge, the great leaders, those leaders that we like to teach here, they don't need to manipulate. Use your name to build intimacy. Use your vision to set the goal. I like to say that when I taught about how to build relationships with customers, one of the things I learned quite quickly was there's nothing more beautiful to a person in their ears than their own name. And I got very good at saying people's name often while I had a conversation. It happened today on a particular call I had with the bank. But I've learned that it's a two-pronged approach, but it works for the good. One, it puts you in their circle of trust a bit, and then it also builds a rapport. So the reality is that it's certainly something that people enjoy hearing, and I've always used that well. I've always smiled, I've always nodded, and I've always said their name. Those three things have made a big difference. It allowed me to become one of the top salesmen in the entire United States for the number one alarm company, ADT, in America. So, there are good things to be used. Like I said, remember the gun. It can be used for good, and it can be used for evil. So what's the challenge? Are you a Titan leader? Are you a servanthood leader? You don't need to manipulate. Like I said, build intimacy with the people and do it because you truly care about them more than you care about the results. So next week, we're going to tackle poison number 9. What is it? You're going to find out soon. Stay with us and keep watching on Hank Ruff TV. See you next time.